Hey, dude.
All right, so today's guest is Steve,
Hi.
which isn't the guest, but we thought we'd take some time to kind of talk about what we're up to and how we're changing, I think, our business and how we're pivoting a little bit, and why.
Yeah,
So
I think we've alluded to it actually in the past, but
yeah,
now we're actually physically moving. We're
Yeah.
starting to do.
yeah, and I think the reason we're coming clean is because we don't want to talk shit anymore.
Yeah. But we do. We don't even fuck if we talk shit, but
So, so DUCKLIFE is 2 years old.
Mhm.
We've done some epic shit.
Yep.
In my opinion, in your opinion, I think we've done some really amazing things. The team's growing like crazy. We've worked with 10 or so brands. We've learned a lot. We've learned about the great and amazing side of supporting other organizations. But we've also learned how frustrating it can be to kind of help other people solve problems. I think the main point and the main motivation when you bring it all together and you try to summarize where we stand today on the advisory / agency thing is,
I mean, that's the point of this conversation.
I mean, we're really good at it. People really
Yeah.
appreciate it, and there are some great moments. But I think our kind of conclusion is it sucks.
Mm-hmm.
It's really difficult to be invited into an organization to fix a specific problem, yet
Yeah.
struggle to gain kind of the room and the kind of authority to get things done.
Yeah. I think if you remember that conversation we had in China that time where when we stood outside the wonderful Holiday Inn in Hangzhou, and we said if we were to summarize the value of bringing in an advisory like DUCKLIFE, is that we lend advice from experience of failures and success. And I think that's probably that main crux of why we get frustrated and do what we do, because we don't just go in and try to solve a marketing problem. People think they have a marketing problem or a branding problem, but we actually go in and we're like, when you break it all down and you start looking, that's one part of it. But there's a product issue, there's an operations issue. I think there's that disjoint there, which is probably, that's certainly how I differentiate the advisory and the agency piece.
Because I think you're so right. I think the issue is people come to us with what they believe is a marketing problem, but what they fail to understand is that marketing includes customer experience, which includes your product and your operations. And when you have a marketing problem, it's because you have a business problem.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you think people aren't buying your products enough or fast enough, or you're not growing at the scale that you want, and you think it's a marketing problem, fundamentally that,
Yeah.
that's not true.
Yeah, we see that so much. Well, particularly with all of the work we've done over the last 2 years. It's a bigger problem actually than I think we probably gave credit to.
And it's such a strange kind of conclusion, right? It's such a strange thing to ask for, right?
Yeah.
You're like, I'm spending more money, I'm putting more money in media, my efficiency is not there, things are getting less efficient.
Yeah.
Like I'm spending more money on marketing, but I'm not growing.
Yeah.
And it's so funny that the conclusion will be something's wrong with my marketing.
Yeah. And that's why, this will go on to the other point, but this is why the whole agency thing, like I'm more anti the whole agency world.
Yeah.
Not the agency world, like I appreciate what it brings, but that's the default answer. Oh, it's my creative. Oh, it's the marketing. Oh, it's my social. Oh, it's my team. The team aren't communicating the product piece, but actually there's that lack of acceptance of a broader kind of business issue. And, fundamentally when you just turn and pivot and you say, we need an agency or a creative solution, when actually you need a leadership solution. You need to actually critically assess, sit in a room or critically think, which seems to be my word of the last 2 weeks. Like sit down and properly think about what it is that you're trying to solve for, and then decide how you use external parties. Because that's actually why you would use DUCKLIFE. You wouldn't use DUCKLIFE.
And it's crazy when you kind of map out all of the kind of challenges that have been kind of presented to us over the last 2 years, across the board without fail, every single one. And I hope they don't take this the wrong way, but it's been a leadership issue.
Yeah.
Fundamentally, right? And it's been it was never really a marketing issue.
Yeah.
It was a leadership issue, and it was, I think initially people approach us and like, hey, can you fix our brand? Can you fix our creative? Can you fix our campaigns? Can you fix all this stuff? But fundamentally, when we get in there, 10 times out of 10,
yeah,
it's an organizational leadership issue.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny that it's so obvious. Like, if you're spending more and more resources, money, time, people into marketing and it doesn't work, it's so funny that people will immediately kind of resort to, oh, it's a marketing issue rather than the obvious.
Yeah, such an easy thing. We did I think the last time I was on the show, it was You Don't Deserve a CMO, right?
Yeah.
And we were almost talking about this. We were talking about this topic in the sense of the CMO's tenure is so short. And yeah, I think when you actually think about it as to why that is, that default kind of like, okay, it's a marketing problem. That default is actually what is preventing what I would say is a ton of growth in the region now. Because if we're not problem solving at a holistic level from a business point of view, particularly after everything that's gone on over the last 12 months, and look at the bigger picture, then we're just going to continue making the same mistakes. And what's worse for our industry, no one has any money anymore. Everyone's struggling to justify spending on what they deem as, if you go from an agency point of view, they don't want to spend too much money on the creative services. They no longer can value or assign value to some of the things that marketing might bring, which creates an even bigger problem because then it's like this feedback loop.
Non-stop.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, if you set up kind of the foundation of our relationship with our customers, it's kind of a strange one because it's a call for help, and it's a recognition that they can't do it themselves and that they are unable to, whatever the problem is. I'm not going to go into specifics, but whatever the problem is, they can't do it themselves, and so they reach out for us to do it, and they recognize that we can do it and we could probably do a better job than they can. But the value that they attribute to it doesn't follow the suit, It's so strange. It's like, hey, I could hire someone to do it and I could do it cheaper.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that's not what we're offering.
Yeah.
We're offering that we'll do it and we'll do it better than you can.
Yeah.
And it's just so funny how the kind of value attributed to that service is something that we always have to kind of explain to people. I think it's an extremely strange thing to kind of have to build, right? I mean, people recognize their flaws, recognize what they can't do, understand its importance, reach out externally, and then try to hammer out, dollar after dollar after dollar to try to get it to the bottom dollar. And I just find that funny because, we don't really negotiate, right? We don't. Our price is our price, kind of thing. And
I mean, that's just knowing your worth.
Yeah, like I think we know our experiences have led us to a place where we have not all of the answers, but a lot of the experience to help you problem solve and think critically through things. And we know what we're worth and we know what that's worth because we've been successful and we've failed. And we know what those experiences are worth. And so it's so funny that somebody will come, recognize that value, and yet try to chip at it.
Yeah.
I
mean, that's probably that gripes us nothing like crazy, right?
Fundamentally, if somebody tries to negotiate, I think with us a bit too much, we
shut down.
We shut down. I'd rather walk away from opportunity, as I know you do too, rather than sell ourselves short, right? And so, but then you have the flip side too. You also have sometimes as a small boutique kind of advisory, we get big brands knock on our door and we get all excited.
Mm-hmm.
We say, oh damn, this is cool. One, we probably won't have to negotiate on pricing because they have the money, and two, like, it'd be great to work with an established brand. And what's incredible in the Middle East is that even these big established brands are destroying the kind of advisory agency landscape, right? For the simple fact that the reason that they bring in organizations like DUCKLIFE, it's a very different problem statement than the smaller guys, is because they fundamentally don't want to do their own jobs.
Yeah. That's so true. The
they fundamentally, they have all the resources, all the capabilities in house, but the reason these big brands come in and want to get creative services or media services or performance services or any advice or whatever is because they essentially don't do their own jobs, right?
Yeah.
Strange kind of dilemma.
The agency world, some previous background in the agency world, although it's like another lifetime ago, so I won't claim to have recent experience in it. But it's a very strange landscape here.
Yeah.
And I think to speak unapologetically and freely, the agency-client relationship whole thing, that whole model, when we think about agencies, is all total bullshit. It's basically the way it gets boiled down to is who can screw who more. There's no trust. It's bullshit. If you think about it from when you're on client side and you want to work with an external party, if you go through the process correctly, you go through like a tender, RFP, you get different quotes in, you frame the brief correctly, you make a decision as a business, but then immediately you get a rate card and you try to negotiate down. What do you try to negotiate? If you trust the third party that you're coming in, you're immediately discounting their worth, what they perceive their worth to be. If you do it some way that we've seen and unfortunately witnessed, is you as a client, you go out to tender and you get a few ideas and then you run away with those ideas and you execute them.
Yeah, 100%.
On the agency,
happened to us a couple times.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah. On the agency side, you've kind of got this model which is kind of cookie cutter almost. Problem solve once you've won the account, or you actually lowball the account to make sure that you win it, and then you scale up the account. And then you also have a kind of, how would you describe it? This notion of like being able to just template everything out. You're not actually critically solving the business problems at heart, which then is why the agency-client relationship breaks down. And I think that's where you and me feel very passionate about, because when we think about it from an advisory point of view, if you bring us in for marketing and we very quickly assess and realize that it's not a creative issue, we're going to tell you it's not a creative issue. We don't want to burn your money. Being former startuppers, burning money is the most painful thing. It's not their money to burn anyway.
I think fundamentally that's why we set up in the first place, is because the way we started was our first client came to us and said, I have a marketing problem.
Yep.
Can you take over my marketing?
So true. Yeah.
When we started, we went in with that hypothesis. Within 3 weeks, we went in and we said, okay, actually, no, you don't have a marketing problem. You have a full customer experience problem. You have a problem with your operations. You have a problem with your kind of pricing. You have a problem with your merchandising. You have a problem with your product. You have a problem with this. And fundamentally, that's getting manifested, and it's hurting your marketing because you're spending more and more and your efficiency is getting less and less. And so when we created DUCKLIFE, we realized that if we were going to be successful and if we were going to be different, if we were going to actually help customers, we weren't going to say that we only respond to briefs as they're given.
Yeah.
We will start with the brief and we will come back to you and say whether your brief is correct or if we have a different opinion.
Yeah, after audit.
After audit.
Yep.
So every project that we've ever taken starts with an audit.
Yeah.
We audit your journey, we audit your marketing, we audit your brand, we audit your product, we audit everything, and we tell you, in fact, your brief is right or your brief is wrong. That's what made us us.
And it immediately creates random friction, right? Because that means we go to different senior stakeholders and we say, can we have a look at this data? Can we just see this? Why do you need this? You're doing marketing. That's the immediate
And every organization, big or small, that we go into, it's so funny. They agree with our process. I think everyone agrees and they say, yeah, absolutely, this totally makes sense. We understand. But between saying that they understand and actually going through with what our design is, what our process is, a lot of people a lot of the leaders that we work with are unable to manage their organizations, manage their team, manage the messaging or the communication that goes with our projects.
Yeah.
So we'll go in and we'll say, actually, dude, your problem is not a marketing problem. It's a product, fulfillment, pricing, whatever the problem is. And, whoever our main point of contact is, be it the CEO, CMO, COO, whatever, all the time agree with us, but they are unable to sell it through the organization. And when we try to get involved as well, it's obviously, like you said,
it's friction.
Lots of friction.
Yeah.
And contrarily, when you look at the agency landscape here and globally, I don't think it's unique to the region, is they respond to briefs only. And they're built to do that. They're not built, we have very different propositions.
It's true.
But but what sucks is that when we respond to briefs, we'll respond with, okay, here's what you think you need to do. Here's how we can price what that solution would be. But here's what we fundamentally believe is the issue and the process we would take. And so our propositions are different. And when you go up against agencies, like you said, and you're competing, let's say we're both competing for the same business, the bigger agencies here, they have a very different strategy. It's all a question of getting the account. It's not a question of doing what's right for the account. It's all about getting the account, which is a survival kind of position.
Can't blame them because it's their, that's the business.
Yeah, and I also think that, they need to survive, especially in this economy. So I think a lot of these big guys come in and they say, okay, we can do it for, half the price of anybody else just to get the money in and get the account, and then, like you said, grow it as it comes in later, and basically screw every other agency or advisory out there because it's a pricing exercise. Yeah. And then they position their value as being super huge because of their size, their experience, their tenure, etc. And so that's what happens within the agency world. I think there's a lot of undercutting, destroying their actual market themselves. They're eroding pricing by themselves.
Yeah.
And lowering their own worth. And so everybody else kind of suffers. But then on the advisory side, the challenge that we have as a company is the leadership capabilities and discipline of leaders in the region is unfortunately subpar. It's quite low, right? Mm-hmm. And so on the advisory side of the business is you have a solution, you start working with your counterparts, your stakeholders, you try to implement things within the company. But because the organizations are so immature, lacking process, don't have discipline, there's tons of issues with communication amongst leaders and executive teams. Any implementation of any change is a lot more difficult than it needs to be.
But in summary, we're not fulfilled enough by just trying to problem solve for other people, and that's down to a variety of things. Like when we think of relations, we think of discipline.
Fucking incompetence.
Yes, all of that. Lack of critical thinking.
Discipline.
Not understanding how to solve a problem, or actually challenging how to solve a problem, or even, hiring people like us in the first place to solve problems, then trying to solve them themselves. So long story short,
I think we realize if you want to do something right, sometimes you just got to do it yourself.
Yeah.
And if you don't trust that the other side or the other side of the coin is doing a good enough job, then sometimes you just got to do it yourself. Just shut up and do it yourself.
Yeah.
And I think the builder inside of us decided, yes, sometimes being an advisor in an agency can be amazing, but sometimes it's just not going to be enough. And for that reason, we're going to launch our own brands as well.
Exactly. We're going to incubate
immediately.
Yeah. Incubate our own brands and businesses. Not just stop at one. We're going to get them going. We're going to pivot 50% of our resources to make sure that we grow and develop them, contribute to the ecosystem out here, build like motherfuckers, and actually really change the way that shit is done. Because we are bored of doing things.
It's funny. Sometimes the best motivation is anger, right? And I think it's amazing to deal with a lot of, as an advisory, people come to us with a specific list of problems. Here's what we want to fix. Whether it's correct or not, that's besides the point. But they come to us with their problems, and we've been doing that for 2 years, and we've been doing it really well.
We still do it well.
Weird to say that, and we still do it well. It's just, and thank you to those customers. And sorry if you're offended by this, but your problems are just not exciting enough for us to only do that. And so we decided out of anger, out of frustration for what we're seeing and what we're living, that we need to get back to building, and we're going to build. And so we're going to launch a new brand, a new product.
One of many.
One of many to come, but the first one is going to be launched in a couple of months.
Yeah.
And we've been secretly working on it for 9-10 months now.
Yeah.
And so we're super excited to announce that. And listen, what does this mean? We're going to have less capacity for, clients or customers or whatever. So we're going to try to handpick the ones that we really want to keep, and
that are fully aligned to our mission. We want to create brands that make us proud.
And so we're still going to do that, but we're going to do it at a capacity that is much, much reduced.
Yep.
And we're going to put the rest of our resources and time into our own startups. That we're going to incubate ourselves, fund ourselves to get off the ground.
Exactly.
And so stay tuned.
Yep.
And for all the customers that frustrated us, thank you. You motivated us to kind of build our own stuff.
Yeah.
So thank you for making us realize that we can do it better. So that's what we're going to do.
And also, all of the learnings, everything that we take from there, all of the failures that we have, will then be able to transfer and then help you guys as well. So it's not like we're saying goodbye. This is just this is an evolution.
Yeah, and for the customers that still want to work with us and still want to do business with us and still want us, to play a role in their organization, in their culture, in their brands, we will be, open ears, and we'll always look at the opportunity. But unfortunately, our capacity is not going to be what it used to be. But we'll do our best, and hopefully we'll be aligned. And watch out for our eventual launch of our first startup.
2 months. Maximum.
I would say like 6 weeks.
4 weeks if it's really going by your standards.
Next week. All right.
Cool.
Let's do it.
See ya.